are prepared for wizardly combat.
I want to show you a trick Mother showed me when you weren't around.
And I'll not laugh Hoefer, Spellburn, don't yell.
Welcome to Spellburn, a podcast covering the Dungeon Crawl Classics role-playing game and old-school adventuring. It's time to party like it's 1974.
Release the princess or prepare for wizardly combat.
I want to show you a trick Mother showed me when you weren't around.
And I'll not laugh Hoefer, Spellburn, don't yell.
Welcome to Spellburn, a podcast covering the Dungeon Crawl Classics role-playing game and old-school adventuring. It's time to party like it's 1974.
Release the princess or prepare for wizardly combat.
I want to show you a trick Mother showed me when you weren't around.
And I'll not laugh Hoefer, Spellburn, don't yell.
Welcome to Spellburn, a podcast covering the Dungeon Crawl Classics role-playing game and old-school adventuring. It's time to party like it's 1974.
Release the princess or prepare for wizardly combat.
I want to show you a trick Mother showed me when you weren't around.
And I'll not laugh Hoefer, Spellburn, don't yell.
Welcome to Spellburn, a podcast covering the Dungeon Crawl Classics role-playing game and old-school adventuring. It's time to party like it's 1974.
In 20 oh gosh. Hello everyone. All right.
Good evening.
Let's try this again. Is 2025 the year of the monster? We have Dungeon Denizens 1 hitting the streets. We have a second Denizens collection on the way, and we have a huge collection of MCC mutates in unnatural selections from our pal and yours, Luau Lu. Now he's got a whole new ball of wax, the Gammatastic Voyage, coming our way. He's teaching kids, he's rocking Hawaiian shirts, he's putting crocodiles, laser snakes, kaiju, and abominations in your hot little hands. Tonight we're joined by Luau Lu, and we'll talk monsters, mutants, North Texas, teaching, all this and more on tonight's Spellburn. I am Judge, and with
I am Judge.
that's awesome.
It's amateur night.
It's like it says Judge question mark on this. Like
I am
I'm
Judge.
I'm Judge. I am Judge Julian, and with me I have our Judge Jay, Judge James,
Hola.
and tonight's guest, unfortunately for him, Judge Lou.
How's it going, guys?
We're down to Jay. We're down to Judge
We're
Jay.
down to Jay. It had to be done. I fired Judge Jen earlier today for performance-related reasons. She was on
Yeah.
her fourth warning.
Yeah.
And I just said, no,
It's either the warehouse gig or us.
yeah, it had to be done. And no, of course we're kidding. Of course she's actually got seniority over me. She does my performance review every year. No, no, it's not that. Judge Jen had a warehouse related emergency work requirement thing and couldn't be here tonight. But the show must go on, and it does go on. And I swear I haven't been ingesting any chemicals. But we should go straight on over to the tavern.
The ingestion of chemicals. Yes. We'll have an excuse then.
We will have an excuse then. All right, it's time for the old tavern talk. I'm going to kick it over to Judge James here, and we'll see what's going on.
Yeah. So May, June. I guess it's mostly June. But anyway, the past few weeks have been a flurry of activity in gaming and developing NetCrawl. Played with the local group, Don Stroud, amongst others, the Gong Farmers Local 420. And we marched further into Brendan LaSalle's second level adventure, the Ash Dawn Incursion for NetCrawl. Then there was also TT RPG Pickup Con, number 55, which was, I think, right the weekend after our last show, something like that. And I played through a playtest of the third level adventure that I'm writing, Generative Plot, and that was good and awesome and got some good feedback, kind of finalizing my notes now for the adventure. And then last but not least, I was on a podcast called The Splat Book. It's by a couple people here in Ann Arbor and the southeastern Michigan area. They put on like a Roll for Topic Con, which is kind of another podcast. These, kind of small, they're very game centric, like all kinds of games, board games, and lots of different flavors of RPG games. They play and examine them all, and so they're really a fantastic resource of people, and they're very kind and awesome and nice. And so he had me on the show, the Splat Book, and we did an actual play of NetCrawl, the mini adventure that's in the back of the book, and we talked about it a little bit, and it was a lot of fun just to be on the podcast and get to talk with them. So the Splat Book, it's coming up like in July sometime, I'm told, for release.
Cool. I'll try to link their site or feed or whatever in the notes. So what's Generative Plot about? Is there some kind of emergent plot type mechanism in this thing? No, the title makes me curious.
Yes. So it's Jeff Seifert kind of mentioned this idea of bad, like generative work, like gone awry, amok, and you've got these really terrible creatures that are like generated by AIs, kind of like today, a little commentary on today's artistic endeavors by stupid hallucinating
Finger check.
machines.
Everybody got 5 fingers on each hand.
Yes.
I'm sure we're not AI.
I'm a person.
This isn't a deep fake here, folks.
That's right. And so, I think that's an important part of it. At least this game is some kind of commentary on technology. So it's kind of about that. And, just kind of, you'll find out. I'll let you read it. Don't worry.
Yeah, I like that. That sounds interesting.
The adventure in the book, is that the one with the robot virus, or is that a different one?
I think that's a different one. That's
Okay.
a different one. That was a little funnel that I put together for Starcrawl and Netcrawl to go together. But it's just a little teeny thing. It ran during uh, that adventure that's in the back of the book was written for like this DCC multiverse thing, where it's going to have all the creators do little teeny 1 hour dungeons,
Oh, cool.
and it'd be in their
System of choice or whatever.
yeah, like their game system or their setting or their all that kind of stuff. So Ed Stanek was doing like Rome thing, and so everybody could just kind of put their own stuff into the pot, and then you just kind of round robin through all these different scenarios in an hour. You'd like play 3 or 4 of them, and so it went nowhere. But I did produce a little adventure that helped to turn Netcrawl into something.
Cool. All right, sounds good. Anything else, James?
I don't think
Isn't that
so.
is that enough?
That's plenty. Jeez. How about you tell us what's been going on, Julian?
Well, I ran a weird little hack of DCC for the pulp genre at North Texas RPG Con back at the beginning of June.
You're working on this, right?
Okay, so I'm not working on this exactly.
Hmm.
I just became obsessed with this after reading some Philip Jose Farmer stuff earlier this year. And I started working on it. And then I started talking to Jeff Seifert about it. So I'm kind of working on it. Like we've talked together and I've had a little preview of something he's working on. That's called Dicey Tales. And so I don't know. I guess we're not exactly collaborating on this. I hadn't intended to publish this thing. I actually, I haven't written any rules or anything. I just wrote the classes on the character sheets and then played the game like
That's
that.
enough. You got
Yeah,
some characters. Let's go.
well, yeah, and the ability, DCC is pretty much in the classes, and then they get like genre appropriate spells from DCC RPG, so I just gave them those spells, and we were off. But we had a pretty good time. They went pretty well. I played 2 different adventures there for that, and I really dug it. So maybe there is an opportunity to. I hadn't been that serious about it, but I liked it enough that maybe I'll talk to Jeff about collaborating more on that if he still is interested in that, or I don't know, maybe it goes in a separate direction.
Push
I
out a
don't know
little
yet.
zine. Get a little zine out there.
Right.
Yeah, why not?
I also had an opportunity to play in Grape Ape's Golden Idol of Intradar, and that was pretty fun. Puzzle-ish, very much a thinking puzzly type adventure. There's lots of traps, secrets, some puzzles, some brain teasers, and I didn't really think being from Wisconsin, I wasn't really expecting that from him, but it was.
Oh, ouch.
Oh, hey, wait. Sorry.
Regional rivalry already.
wait.
I love it.
No, I always have a fun hangout with Matt, and so we did. We got to argue about the rules at the table, which is great for the host of rules as written. We got to actually go at it about the rules, and then he played in those 2 pulp games as well. So it was very fun to actually get a chance to hang out. We got to have some dinner, and but it was very fun. I've never got to play a game with him as a judge before, and it was fun. He's got a good poker face type style, and it's very gamey because he's got the puzzles and traps going and stuff.
He didn't try to kill you like outright. He let you.
No, well, that's just not fun if you're actually the judge. Although, you never know. That was last year's North Texas, which a day that will go down in infamy. Speaking of Grape Ape, his boon companion in the Raw podcast, Stefan Surratt, also ran a playtest of our 10th level game.
Ooh, how's that?
And it was this is like our 4th or 5th playtest. He got some great feedback. They had a good time, and I think Chaos won. It's a reality bending alignment feud type game where almost anything can happen at the end when you're on a giant comet. Spoiler alert. Anyway, so
Excited.
it's going to be pretty fun. I'm very psyched. I still got to make some revisions, look over that feedback, and do some tweaks and stuff like that. But we're really getting psyched about this and bringing that out with Stefan and Dragon Peak.
When is that coming out? Any anticipated time frame?
No, not really. Maybe later this year or maybe early next year. We haven't finalized a date because we're working really hard to just try to get this thing right. And it's a little more complicated than your usual game. So it's gone under a lot of playtesting, but I think that's a good thing.
So I've heard Stefan tell the story of how this came about. I want to hear your version
of how
you guys decided to do this. Like what,
Oh, the 10th level game?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the story goes that a long time ago in I don't know, 2013 or 2014, I got very interested in running a high level DCC game and this is long before I had done any writing for Joseph or anything like that. I barely knew anybody, but I got really into the idea of running a 10th level game. So I wrote it out and I ran it for my home group and we had a good time. It was a little more tournament style then, and it still has a PvP element potentially now. But we had played it, we had a good time. And then I was like, okay, I'm gonna run it at Gen Con. DCC is kind of hot. That should be kind of fun. I put the thing in Gen Con catalog, for that summer. And I was very careful. I was like, this is a 10th level game. This is the highest level possible. They have like 3 options, like new players welcome, some experience is good, and like expert with the rules. So I put expert with the rules, and even I was barely or maybe not expert with the rules, but I was like expert with the rules. You got to understand action dice and deeds across multiple attacks and all this stuff. So I walk in, I go to Indy, all that jazz, and I walk into the room and I sit down at the table, and there's 6 people there. They all have nice, shiny DCC books. And I'm like, okay, great. So I'm assuming you've all played DCC before. And they all looking at me like, well. And I think like 2 of them were pretty well versed for the time because, of course, not many, people had only maybe run or played some games at the time. And then one person had played like 1 game, and then the other 3 people hadn't cracked the book. So I got to teach them the 10th level version of the game.
Oh, geez.
As we went.
Yeah, like, you've driven a car before, right? Well, here's a fighter jet. Go for it.
Yeah. So that was pretty fun. But you know what? We had a pretty good time, and they were good sports, and they jumped in and did their best with it, and we had a good time anyway. So it was pretty fun. But I was like, okay, be ready. That was when I learned, like, whatever you put in the thing for your con game, they can hold you to that, but you can't really hold them to that. Is what I learned.
Yes.
So yeah. Anyway.
So it's been a lifelong goal is to get this thing out, like DCC lifelong. Let's just put.
Yeah, it's always been there in the back burner that I wasn't going to get Joseph to bite necessarily.
That's the part that Stefan tells, is that somehow he was with you when you're having this conversation, or I don't know, I might be getting the story wrong, but that Joe basically is like, 10th level, nobody's buying those. We're not going to be able to produce that. And Sam's like, "I'll do it. Let's do this. Let's hang up."
Yeah, I don't know that Joseph. I didn't probably ever. I couldn't get. Generally speaking, I wouldn't even have probably taken it to Joseph. Maybe I did, but they generally go for, as one can see, they go for lower level adventures because they're bringing people into the game, and they've got entry points for stuff these days. So it's a tough product too. It's a little bit nichey. At the same time, hopefully it'll be a kind of a curiosity, and a lot of people will want to take a look at it. And we're going to give pre-gens with it, so you don't have to have run a whole 3-year campaign and got your guys to 10th level. You're going to get a 10th level guy And we'll have some, advice for running 10th level games, both for the judge and how to keep the players on track and all that stuff. So
it reminds me a lot of the mystique and the curiosity I had over that other game's Immortal set, and how like everybody had the red box set, but it's very, rare you find someone that had the Immortal set.
And would mess with that, right?
Yeah. But I think all those adventures also had the pre-gens and stuff, because like, how many people really get to this level legit? Let's just, feed them out with something they can run on.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to put the pre-gens in there. I think more adventures should do that anyway, and more products and games should do that anyway. So I'm a fan of that.
Dang page count is all I'm thinking about.
Right. Well, it's not. It's a 4-hour adventure, so that's not too crazy.
Oof. Wow. Okay. So, all right. I'm excited to hear about this thing
game.
going live. Yeah.
It sounds like you're going to play test it for us, James. That's what
am I? Okay. Fantastic.
Oh,
I'm on board.
Love it. Thank you. So, and then I'm getting ready to run some games at Summer Nights Con, which is an online con running Friday, July 25th to July 27th.
I was thinking about putting in for that too.
Yeah, you should. It's a benefit for Doctors Without Borders. And I think I'm going to run a game like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, like one each, and then play one or two. But obviously you can bop in and play one game. You can bop in and run one game. You can combo it up any way you want. You can sit around all weekend online and just go nuts. If you haven't had enough cons this year, you can do whatever. So
is that can you get into that through tabletop events or?
Yeah. Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, and I will definitely link that in the show notes, and everybody should do it. It's run by my pal Trevor Russ, who has done similar. He did RPG Alliance Con a couple of years ago, which has kind of shifted more into a bricks and mortar thing post-COVID, but this is still, I believe, some of the same people, including Trevor, more in the online space still. So that's cool. And plus, I get to hopefully game with Trevor, who's a great guy.
Nice.
All right. I think that's enough about me for the moment. How about Judge Lou? What I know you were at North Texas with me.
Yeah, so let's start there.
Yeah, we talked for like 5 seconds or something in the hall.
Boy, I don't know about you, but like my schedule is packed when I'm there between there's that whole brotherhood of people that you get to see every year there, and then there's so many good games that you don't get to play anywhere else. So I did a bunch of play testing. That's one of the main things I do when I go there as far as my own games go, because the clientele in that convention, at least a big portion of them, are also small publishers. So they've got like that inside baseball of, this is what I think is going to work on this, and this is what I think you need to change. And then the other portion of the crowd are just really good role players. So it's like the perfect environment to test things out. So I did some testing here on the Gamma-tastic Voyage that I'm doing the backer kit for right now. I did some play testing on some of my Derelict Club stuff. I've got an adventure called The Devil and Principle of Faults, which the Derelict Club's kind of like a Goonies type setting. It's its own RPG. So I got to play test that. And then there's this system I've been working on for years, like decades, called Movies Till Dawn, that I'm still trying to get the nuts and bolts to work out on. So I got to do some play testing on that. It was really
What kind of what's the genre? That sounds like a slasher flick thing, or a cult horror flick thing, or
so the problem with it currently is that it's like in this zone sort of between role-playing games and between being like a party game, like a Whose Line Is It Anyways. So your characters are B-movie actors and actresses, and in each adventure they play as different characters in that movie. So there's kind of like 2 levels to every character. There's the character that you always are, and then there's the role you're jumping into each adventure. It plays with a deck of cards instead of dice. Hearts are used to do melodramatic things that develop the plot and that sort of thing. So like if you say a line in the movie, like say it's a sci-fi movie, and the warp drive is discombobulated, we're gonna fall into the black hole or something like that, and you play the right amount, card wise, if it reaches a certain total, then that becomes part of the canon for that movie and it works into the plot. So there's there's like a loose plot to every adventure, but largely it's also being developed by the plays people make and the actions they take. Clubs is like your physical actions in the movie. Spades represents special effects and stuff like that. And then diamonds are glitterati that you can use to kind of like screw over other players, to be like, oh, well, while you were waving your sword there, it was obvious it was made out of rubber. And, so you play your diamonds play on their take and lessen their take. And the long story short is you're trying to get top billing in this film by having the best takes in each go around. And you get these Schwarzenegger $1,000 bill bucks each go around, and you try to get the biggest pile by the end of the game. And it works in the big picture is like building your character's repertoire and making it so they get closer to being in legitimate Hollywood films. But in the short run, if you're just playing like at a con or whatever, it just shows who won the game or who got top billing for that movie. So it's a real crazy thing, and it's still, like I said, I'm still, after many years, getting it down to where I think it works like it should. But it's crazy.
Can your main character, your like actor persona, can they have like a crippling addiction?
Oh yeah. Oh, there's all sorts of stuff for the kind of like drawbacks that an actress can have. All sorts of horrible and funny stuff.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's very very PG-13, very tongue in cheek type stuff.
Now, yeah, that's pretty interesting. I gotta backtrack for a second.
Yeah.
That sounds like a crazy project. And I can imagine how complicated it gets to kind of navigate those layers, but do it simply but elegantly. I haven't thought of anything like that, but I have thought of things where there's sort of similar tracking up and up and down layers like that. It's very cool idea, but wow, it can get complicated fast.
Yeah,
and that's mechanics, and
that's the big holy grail for me right now, is to get this to where it can do all the things I want it to do, but getting it streamlined and getting it so it's got that finesse to it, so it's not so complicated. So,
but I'll backtrack and mention before we move on. I saw, because we're still semi on North Texas, I saw Judge Job of Spellburn, one of the original Spellburn judges at North Texas RPG Con, and I hadn't seen him in years. I didn't even recognize him, seeing him walk by to like 30 feet away, and that was really interesting. So I got to hang out with him for a few minutes, and he ran The One Who Watches from Below, and was working on some lamentation stuff, and it's pretty Job-like, I would say. So nothing too shocking or surprising there, but it was nice to see him. I hadn't seen him a long time, and he's doing some gaming and doing some writing, working on his own game and doing all kinds of stuff. So it was great to see Mr. Job.
It's funny, for a convention that's only like 500 people. There are times that you don't even realize somebody's there till like the end of the convention, and it's like I must have walked past them 1,000 times. But
oh yeah,
whatever.
Yeah. Well, in this case, I hadn't seen this guy since pre-COVID. So, and he was he would always go to GaryCon and he would dye his hair pink or something, and he just looked. He had kind of sporting the trimmed beard, but pretty full coverage and stuff, and just really looked pretty different. So I was. And he's also. We're all 6 years older or whatever. So
yeah.
But it was good to see Judge Job there. So Judge Job, if you're listening, hats off. Anyway, Lou, I'm turning it back to you.
Oh, not a whole lot. So I finished up my first official Goodman Games writing project that I did for them. So I feel like I've accomplished something in life. Can put that on the mantle.
What?
Right.
Don't tell me I've accomplished something in life.
And then, and I was going to ask you about this. So, I mean, you do Crawl for the Cure, at least you did last year, right?
Right.
So are you doing the X-Crawl big mega arena thing?
Yes. I turned in my encounter last week. And I had my wife proofread it, because it is, which she doesn't do anything like that for any of my crap, no matter what it is. However, in this case, it is an X-Files parody, and she is a huge X-Files nerd. So I handed it in to Jim Myers and gosh, who's the other guy?
It's Keith
Kent-
Nelson.
Keith Nelson, of
Yeah.
course, Keith Nelson, duh. And yeah, so I sent it over to them, and I'm sure they're swamped with submissions and stuff right now. And,
Yeah,
and
there
hacking
must
through
have
it.
been. There's at least 2 other people I know that last week, and I also last week's like, here's my submission.
Yeah.
Got it in right under the line.
Right. And but it's going to be fun. It's that should be a good time. I don't think I'm going to make Gamehole this year, but I think the X Crawl is going to be perfect for that kind of fundraising game and letting people buy grandstanding and luck and having it be real deadly and stuff. I think X Crawl is going to be really fun for that. And this thing of having people submit, and I think it should be a pretty good time.
Yeah.
Did you now going back to your writing project for the yearbook? Is that MCC?
Yeah. So, and man, this might be the last thing I write because I don't even know how much I'm allowed to say or not say. They
Well,
didn't tell me.
if
Don't
you just
worry.
say it's MCC, that's enough.
It's
Usually,
MCC. It's a short little adventure. So, and as far as I know, they're getting that like to the printers real soon here.
yeah, no kidding. Well, that's cool. That'll be something to look forward to at Gen Con for those of you who going. That's,
Congrats on that.
Thank you.
Yes,
Super appreciate it.
Gen Con, a con so important that they named it after Judge Jen.
Weird.
All right. I'm going to be merciless with Judge Jen because she's not here to defend herself this episode, so it's going to be bad.
Well, we're halfway through.
All
We're
right.
still sitting here in the tavern.
Let's move on to Crowdburn, and I know who is up first. So let's give it just a few seconds, and then we'll head on into our Crowdburn. All right, Luau Lu, you are actually at the top of our list with the Gammatastic Voyage. We'll talk about it a little more when we get into Mighty Deeds, but do you want to give us the elevator pitch and the details on the dates here?
Yeah. So let's say we went into the video store and we checked out a couple movies. And let's say those movies were the 1960s Fantastic Voyage, where they shrink down in a it's like a government experimental project where they shrink down a submarine and put them into the body of a spy that they're trying to.
Thought it was the president. They're saving the president from
no, it's a
brain clot.
defecting Soviet spy, and they're trying to clear the brain clot so they can get the information from him when he wakes up. So let's say we took that movie and then we checked out all the best Caillou movies, Gamera and Godzilla, King Kong, and we put them into the same movie. And that's what you got with the Gammatastic Voyage. You've got this rampaging kaiju that's going up the seaboard, and your village gets word of it. And there's some elders that think it's linked to this facility that's hidden in a nearby mountain because there's some signage that kind of resembles the creature. And you go to this facility, and it ends up being back in the day of the ancients was a government agency that was trying to stop the Cailloux because they had become a problem at that point. And they have an experimental craft that you can get in and use to go inside the kaiju and plant a bomb in its brain. There's a little twist ending, and there's a lot of little things in between, but that's the premise of it. You get to go explore the monster from the inside out.
Where are you at in funding right now?
I'm funded. I think we're at the 4,000 mark.
Nice.
So doing pretty good. This is my first time on BackerKit, so I'm interested to see what happens. Because Kickstarter, it's got that kind of like half pipe kind of thing where you get a lot of funding up front, then it dwindles down, and a lot of funding at the end. So I don't know if this is where it's going to stay at, clear through this last week, or if there'll be a bump at the end like there is on Kickstarter. But I'm happy with where I'm at. People have been really gracious towards me. There's been a lot of, I put a little thing on there where you can pay an extra $5, and I'm going to try to take that money to do something fun with the printing of it, like maybe do an embossed cover or something like that. My printer's been showing me some cool stuff they can do. So a lot of people have been putting into that, and that's just really cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
How many days left?
I think we got exactly a week.
Well, exactly a week. Get in there, folks.
Get in there, folks. Yes, do it. If you're watching on YouTube, this is your big chance. If you're watching on YouTube like Tuesday, tomorrow, this is your big chance. Wednesday, same. So you get the idea.
The weather is good.
Yes, you got about a week from June 23rd, so get your act together. Because we did see some of this art, and you sent us a little press pack on that, a PDF with some of that stuff. It looks pretty cool. I'm a big fan of adventures inside monsters or people or whatever. I always thought that was one of the coolest ideas since the issue of Avengers a long time ago, where Hank Pym goes into the Vision's body, if you know what I mean. So
Wow.
anyway, do that. You should go ahead and support the Gamatastic Voyage. And we'll talk a little more about it as we go. I'm moving on. Castle White Rock is coming in October. We've spent a lot of time talking about it, but and it's a huge thing. It's gonna take 5e guys from 1 to 20. It's gonna take DCC guys from 1st to 10th. It's over 700 pages of adventure content. And for free RPG day, they are doing right now the Dying Light of Castle White Rock. It's available now at
Yep.
your local friendly local game store. So go get it. There are pre-gens online for it. Is that one is by Mr. LaSalle? Is that right, James?
Kurakowski.
Yeah.
Oh, Kurowski, Alex Kurowski.
Yeah, Kurowski.
A former host, Alex Kurowski. So there you go. It's by Judge Alex. And then also another Castle White Rock adventure on DCC RPG Day, July 19th. So the key to Castle White Rock will be available.
So much to add to your Castle White Rock.
All right.
There's other things going on.
There are plenty of other things. You want to take the next one, James?
Sure. Port Mirror is brand new. I think this is a funnel. Is that right?
Yeah.
It's a funnel. It's in this new setting from these new guys, Cranky Clydesdale Publishing. Have any of you met him? Know him? Okay, he's in Arizona or something, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I have not had the pleasure. Hello, sir. And so it's just launched. It goes through July 10th. Plenty of time to get in there, but show your love for it's Shadow Dark and DCC together in the same book, I believe.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It's really good art too. I haven't kind of followed the story completely, but Matt's been showing me a lot of the art, and oh my goodness, top shelf stuff.
Yeah, the cover is like painted, and it has a really crazy old school meets Hieronymus Bosch type of vibe to it or something. Pretty neat. Very nice.
Am I doing the next one too?
Yeah.
All right. Well, sounds like a vicious plug. Don Stroud, my main man across town, has a new zine coming out for his Ruination Pilgrimage RPG. So that's launching here, I think in a couple weeks, is what he said. So there's new classes, new items, a bunch of classes for like entertainers, so bards and jongleurs, perhaps. I think I've seen it. I haven't gotten to play it, sadly, but they play test all this stuff over the winter, and I missed it. New monsters and a bunch of other new stuff for Ruination Pilgrimage. So show the love for your mothership, Grimdark clone, medieval clone, Grimdark medieval clone, Ruination Pilgrimage, and Don.
There you go. And Don, of course, he's done the Lesser Key of the Celestial Legion and the Forgotten Rites of the Moldering Dead. You know, some different DCC support products for religion and undead, and just a very good dude. And if you haven't tried Ruination Pilgrimage, you're already adjacent in the DCC world if you're listening to this. So go check it out.
Absolutely.
All right. Next we have Old John Stewart's Mill, a philosophical adventure for DCC and 5e. It is the first book in The Witch's Weird, which is a philosophy-focused adventure series by University of Calgary philosophy professor, Gen Con speaker, and game master Archie Fields III. So this is a funnel, and it's going to fuse tabletop role-playing with philosophical depth steeped in dark folklore and character-driven choices. So there's more here I could read, but I think
sounds interesting.
Yeah,
I've backed it already. It's going on right now.
Well, I think it's got a uniqueness to it. I mean, I could see I could see this could be challenging, but it could also be extremely cool if it comes off. So it'll be very cool. And the one thing I pulled out of the thing that I can't resist mentioning is bullet point. Time to philosophize moments of gameplay where players are confronted by ethical challenges based on the texts of John Stuart Mill and Immanuel Kant. So
Fancy.
I can't imagine how that will go.
Oh,
All right.
You're doing that.
Yes, I am.
Host foul.
I'm no run
Yeah,
of the mill.
Matt Funk is a heady dude. He's not just a pretty face. Like he's got a brain, that guy.
Although he's got a pretty face as well.
All right, James, take the next one, please.
All right. Days of Future Fairhaven. In the name, you already know that you should have it. Fairhaven. This is a work from John Hambo McGuire and some of the other rats over there in the
Levi's
sewer
Lawn,
rats.
yeah.
The Levi's. There's a bunch. It's a collaborative effort from the sewer rats. But that's launching in, I think, like a week or something, in a few days.
I think July 1st, if I remember.
July 1st. That's right. So launching July 1st, that will be on backer kit as well. So sentient artificial intelligence is taking over WHPA's programming, replacing it with a 24-hour news cycle, driving the townsfolk mad. So you've got to beat back the machine again. But it should be awesome. So get behind that.
I love it. I love it, and I love just generally to see all the support for Fairhaven, all the third-party adventures now coming out for it, and I'm waiting for the packs of Fairhaven, the gothic horror version and the Star Trek version, and the.
That's when you know you've made a system.
That's right.
Oh, yeah, I was in the shower and I had the superhero version of WHPA Fairhaven, just about
it's
half
like the Mystery Men. It's like the Mystery
written.
Men.
Oh yeah, it was great. So anyway,
that'd be awesome.
Okay, that I think that's the end of a crowd burn. Let's go over to some emails in 5. All right, we got a couple emails in the email bag, friends. If you're hearing this, please go ahead and send us some more emails at the band. spellburnband@gmail.com. That is, again, spellburnband@gmail.com. That's where you can find us. Send us some emails. The first one here is from William Payne. Hello, Spellburn Podcast. I'm a brand noob to Dungeon Crawl Classics. I played RPGs for a long time. I decided to look at DCC and other OSR-style RPGs when D&D went to the new 2024 update. I like D&D fine, etc. I'm just not interested in buying a whole new set of books or subscribing to the D&D Beyond service. Amen, brother.
Yeah.
My question to Spellburn is, I've been looking for a catalog. He says, I'm an old of DCC adventures and setting material. I'd hope to see a brief description of DCC projects large and small, levels of characters, page count, availability in print or digital, etc. Do you know of an online database or links to reviews, etc.? It would be easier to browse than the web store. Maybe this is already posted somewhere. Thanks, Bill. So I looked around and I actually responded because this is quite a while back. I tried to help as much as I could, which was not that much. But I did come up with the Wikipedia listing for quote unquote list of Dungeon Crawl Classics modules, underscores through every word there. And it's actually pretty useful. It has the number of each adventure. It has the levels. It has, of course, the name and the author. And it's grouped into, holiday adventures, horror adventures, regular adventures, yearbook adventures, and that kind of stuff. So it's in that sense, it'll tell you where to find them. And I think it's a pretty good resource, and it's reasonably current. I don't think it's updated with the Castle White Rock, this very newest Castle White Rock stuff, but I think it's otherwise up to date. And I'm sure it will be updated. So I think that's a pretty good start. If I don't, Lou or James, do you have any better resource than that?
Didn't Gong Farmer almanac have like an index issue or something like that? Or was that just for that year's production? Like I thought Taco John kept a running list of stuff.
He did, but I don't think he's able to do that anymore.
It would
For
be like
one,
frozen in time, but that's a big list, as I recall.
yeah, well, it would nowadays it would be, and it's grown exponentially.
Yes.
But you could go back through, back to, yeah, he did do that in the first few years of the Gong Farmer's Almanac, and I can't remember how far he got back, but and I don't know how complete that info is, but that is one thing to look at, and you can download that for free. So that's not a bad idea. So Bill, you could also check that out. Go back to those first, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years of Gong Farmer's Almanacs, and I think maybe they did the index in the last one of those each year because they were multi-volume sets. So you could try looking at that, and if anybody else has a better idea, and you're watching this on YouTube live, just throw it in the comments, or if you are listening to this after the fact,
It's interactive.
yes, uh, uh, email us at spellburnband@gmail.com, and then we'll talk about it.
Alana just posted a link from Goodman Games, the store, DCC modules in PDF order or in order PDF. Is it PDF?
Hmm.
Let me see. Nice sleuthing, YouTube goddess.
Yeah, and just because, this is in the number order, so
Okay.
it starts with all the old D20 stuff.
And it's like a web page, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, this is pretty good because you can at least you look at the covers and they'll say who the author is, what levels it's for. It'll have, is it Dying Earth or a horror adventure, blah blah blah. So this is not bad. That's pretty good too. Well, I'll link to this in the show notes as well, because this is a nicer visual thing,
Mhm.
certainly. So that's
I get
not a
my
bad
I've
idea.
got to get my charger. I'll be right back.
All right. Next up, we've got an email from Mr. Corey Gashman, also AKA DM Kojo, and he comes to us and says, an email in the last show from Josh Burnett about spell levels got me thinking. Since I've never had a party advance beyond level 4 in my campaigns, and level 4 has also been my cap for convention games I've run, I've never had a cleric or wizard spells of level higher than level 3 used in my games. I'm curious if you all have used higher level spells with lower level characters, whether it be via scroll, villain spellbook, artifact, etc. If so, did you use them like any other spell, or did you bump them down the dice chain since level 4 characters are only supposed to have access to a max spell level of 2? I look forward to any wisdom you can share. I feel that I'm missing an opportunity to have some great spells used in my games, but also don't want to give the PCs too much power, at least without a cost. Thanks, DM Kojo. Well, thank you, Kojo. That is a great question. I have tended to keep things to third or fourth level in most of my games, but I've been doing conversion work on various projects, and I've been, in fact, in the last few days, just coincidentally mucking around with a bunch of higher level spells and reading them, and I did a few of those for Dying Earth way back in the day. And I mean, I think the spell mechanics generally would work exactly the same. But interestingly, if you go back and you read through the scrolls section of the DCC RPG rulebook, I think that's going to tell you everything you really want to know, and how to do that. So I certainly use a D20, not any lower or higher die or anything like that. But like with scrolls, the text suggests that there are some scrolls might be cast in -2 dice, and some might be or -2 bonus. Some would be cast at +2 on your spell check. Some would be actually inserted into the scroll at a given result.
Yes.
And it's implied from mercurial magic that each one would have its own, that when you learn a spell, you learn it with mercurial magic. So the scroll would also have a mercurial magic attached to it, probably. So all those, so in other words, you can do a lot of stuff. You can do whatever the heck you want, obviously. But, and then there's a whole thing about how to make scrolls unique, and there's a random table in there. And I probably looked at that thing 3 times in 10 years. So I would say DCC is the frickin' book never stops surprising me. There's always something I haven't looked at in years, and I'm like, oh my god, this is cool. Why didn't I haven't done anything with this in years. So Kojo, we should run some higher level games and have fun with that. And B, go back and look at scrolls, and I think you can adapt that for any of these types of ideas you're talking about. So
I was going to recommend the same pages. It's like 373, table 810 through 12. So bunch of good stuff in there. I actually was mining this section for netcrawl and for like executing code, like mechanics and fun table stuff. So for sure, I would like lean into this first, and then look in some other places too, like maybe Gong Farmers. Who knows what's in there?
Not only Kojo does it heavy covered, but like for everybody who hasn't read that section since you got the book maybe 10 years ago or whatever, go back and read it. It's cool. It's the best. It's the best 3 pages of a friggin' D&D-ish rule set you'll read this month, and it's really fun. And only 3 pages. You'll be like, oh, these are all really cool ideas. So
you'll be putting scrolls into your games immediately.
Heck yeah! All right, I think we're all set. Thank you, DM Kojo. Once again, you are the letter writer king. And it's time for us to move on to our guest and our mighty deeds. So we'll be back on the other side of the bumper in just a moment. All right, let's talk about some unnatural selections. First of all, before we even do that, Lou, why don't you give us some background on yourself? And obviously, you've got 3 unnatural selections under your belt. So you've been with us for a while. You've been doing your thing in the MCC space, the DCC space here for a while. So
is this the first time you've been on the show, like like the main guest?
As a guest at all, yeah.
Well, it's like it's an invoke Lualu situation. That's what's going down.
Yeah, but I was like, is there a better verb for a MCC flavored guest? Like instead of invoke or summon Lualu, is it? You're the neckcrawl guy, James. Is it a manifest?
Instantiate.
Lualu. Okay, so it will be done. I was thinking about I was like compile Lualu, and I was like, I don't know.
He's compiled already.
He's already compiled.
I feel very compiled.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. So, Lou, tell us how you got into MCC and your journey into MCC here.
All right. So I think the simplest version of the story. I was writing my game, the Dare Luck Club, and I was writing it on a very thin budget. And so that means that you can only have so many pieces of professional art, and the rest you got to do yourself, or figure some way out. This is way before AI, and I wouldn't have done that anyhow. But so it just so happened I was at my local friendly game shop, and they had the big cardboard display of DCC and MCC, with the books and the thing. And I was like, that's a different kind of cover. That art's kind of striking to me. And I started thumbing through it, and I realized that like it just has a style, and that style wasn't the super oil painted stuff,
right.
that
full color, right?
Doing.
Yes, yeah.
But because it hung with that style, and it gravitated towards that character, it worked. And so I just bought it on the spot, just as like this thing that was calling to me and saying that, hey, you can do a project, you can do it your own way. You don't have to look like the other guys, just find your feel and roll with that. But then I also was really interested in that whole aesthetic. Like I've always liked Gamma World. Um, I never really got into like He-Man as far as like the cartoon and that sort of thing, but like the box art and like the little comics that came with it, it had that really cool pulpy sci-fi fantasy
Yeah.
kind of thing going. So got the book home, read through it, and was instantly like, I got to get this to the table. So, started getting my local gaming group to play it, and it seems to me to be like the ultimate canvas. Like you can literally do about anything in that space and make it feel like it's part of that world without, it feeling jarring or something like you might have in a different genre of game.
Hmm. Hmm. Do you now when you run MCs, did you start with MCC?
Yeah, I ended up buying DCC maybe a year and a half later, just because I wanted to start adding little bits of fantasy into MCC, and it just seemed a quick way to do that.
And it's pretty freaking compatible to mix them and
Oh
match
yeah.
them and jumble it all up. Okay, well, cool, very cool. I love it. So, now are you? I read that you're a teacher, but that can mean a lot of stuff. Do you? So, what do you teach exactly?
Well, children. No. So, so I attempt to teach science and math to middle school students with social and emotional behavioral disabilities.
Hmm.
You're a hero. That's what I'm saying.
No, it's
Come on.
everybody's got a job that's tough, and hopefully you've got the right skill set for that job, and we all struggle through. So.
No, that's teachers are top notch for me, and I appreciate that. I also we'll talk about favorite monster later, but when I was reading my favorite monster, and I knew that you were a teacher, but I didn't know what subject matter or et cetera, I was thinking to myself, as we'll talk about it, I was like, this guy is a science teacher. I can tell because because it makes sense, like maybe it's not a good thing if it makes sense to me. That might not be a good thing, but anyway, I had like, oh, I see that there's some scientific principles being applied here. So oh, that's good for you. That's good. Do you run games with the kids that you teach at all, or in school, or
So
hobby club,
like,
or anything like that?
so we used to so I've been a teacher for a long time. I'm an old gray hair man. This will be my 27th year of teaching coming up here. Um, Back in the day, my school had a chess club and a chess team, and there were exactly two students interested in doing that. And the school the school was paying this huge stipend to get someone to try to do it, and the guy that was running it, he went and moved out to like I think it's like Nebraska or something like that.
As
So
you
I was
do.
like, I know chess and I like chess, but I just don't think I can grow a chess team. And especially, I mean, even the local schools around us, that they were, only maybe one or two of them that still had a team. So I went to the principal. I was like, hey, look, I would love to do this, but instead of doing chess, I'll do chess. But I also want to just open it up to any games at all. Board games, card games, role playing games, whatever. And she loved the idea. She said, let's do it. And so I did that for many years. About 2 years ago, after having done that for, I think it was my 18th year of doing it, I passed the reins on to another teacher just because life had gotten complicated. I had a lot going on and wasn't able to like commit to the time. Like we used to do one school night a week. We'd have games, and then we'd have like a 6-hour marathon once every couple months on a like Saturday or Friday night. Get the pizza and the Mountain Dew and all that stuff going.
Nice, old school.
Yeah. So anyhow, so I passed that on a few years back, and she's done an amazing job with it and kept it going. As far as in the classroom, I sometimes sneak in a little bit of role playing, but I always try to do games. I always try to find games that can get at the heart of what we're trying to learn, whether it's economics or some sort of like not to use this because of the book, but natural selection is one that's fun to do games with in science. Talk about advantages that certain things would give an organism or not.
Secret Hitler for
Yeah,
political science.
Cards Against Humanity, just
Yeah, very kid appropriate. Yes.
Real world kids.
Well, I'm glad. It's very cool. I'm always interested in folks like yourself and Harley comes to mind. There must, I think Kojo was a
Kojo, yeah,
teacher.
just
Kojo's a
learned-
teacher,
Yeah,
there's
so the
a
guys who are
huge
getting to
number.
do that
Yeah.
with the kids, that's very cool. All right, so let's talk about unnatural selections. You got 3 giant books. These are chock full of monsters. They're very fun. How many roughly? It looked to my untrained eye. I didn't take the time to count them, but this is upwards of 30 or 40.
So, well, okay, so yeah, there's 3 volumes. There's 2 of them that the first volume and the third volume, the deluxe version, comes in a binder with like a little slip out cover and little cling stickers that you make your own scene on the cover. Now, both of those, and it depends on how you count them. Like if you count like illustrated monsters, I think they each have around 80 in them.
Oof.
But
Wow.
there's a lot of entries that have like sub entries. So you have like, for instance, like
Yeah.
giant insect, and then you'll have, the generic giant insect. I always try to do that first for those kind of entries where you can kind of make your own thing up real quick. But then I try to give you specific ready to run ones. So like giant bee, giant praying mantis, giant, stag beetle or whatever.
Is that generic, like table based, or I
Yeah,
guess
so on the generic ones, I try to make it to where you're just going to come up with something crazy. So you got like, roll this for its mutative powers,
Got it.
roll this for like, how many, powers that are like thematic to that creature. So like, for an insect, you might have like the special carapace, or you might have, this one can, inject digestive juices, and this one, stinks, and this one, so you get all these random things and kind of get this crazy mutant insect ready to go. But then, some people don't want to, if they're running it at the table, you don't want to take the time to put together that thing. So I also wanted to put in there things that are ready to go, just already statted out with the proper powers and stuff.
Nice.
So if you go with that, if you go with all the subgroups and stuff, both the first and third volume have well over 100 monsters in them. The middle volume was just a booster, volume 2. So it doesn't come in a binder. It comes in a little like not Ziploc, shrink wrap bag. And it had, I want to say around 50 or 60 monsters in it. And again, it depends on how you count them.
Just it's the little one, just
Wait,
50 or 60.
Still, you're getting like 200, north of 200 monster. Like,
yeah. So this binder is my binder that has all 3 volumes jammed into it here. So there's I think all told getting towards 400 monsters in there.
Right. The binder, if you're listening to this, the binder he's showing us looks about as thick as your DCC RPG core book, I would say. That's what it looked like just as he's holding it up there.
the format is smaller than 8.5 by 11.
Yeah.
Though,
so and I always steal from things. That's just the nature of my crooked ways. So one of my favorite AD&D second edition products was the Monsters Compendium. And when I got that, I was kind of in my teen years, and it was almost like getting baseball cards or whatever, where like each time you got it, you're pouring through the different ones and like sorting them out different ways and everything. But it obviously had some flaws to it that a lot of people, it makes it one of their least favorite items. One of those flaws was table space. When you had it out, man, it was taking up everything. You had no real estate left to run your game. So this is in a digest size, what they call a mini binder. So it's a lot smaller, can kind of sit on the table, and you still can get some room to play. And then the other thing is, in that product, they made the mistake of printing monsters back to each other. And then later on, you have a monster come out that needed to go between those two alphabetically if you wanted to do that.
Oops.
So by shrinking down the size, each monster is its own page, so you can keep adding to it and moving things around.
Tear it in half and then put the monster entry between it.
Steam it and pull it apart. Yeah. But so that was kind of the design conceit there. And then the slide-in cover with the cling stickers, that was because I'm a pull man. I could get things printed on a vinyl binder, but it was a hell of a lot expensive. So I'm like, okay, I got to make this shortcoming. I got to get this to my advantage here. And I found one of the companies I had been using for other products made cling stickers for like, putting on like your restaurant windows or whatever. I was like, well, I bet I could get those printed in smaller ones, and then people can just slap on their own little scene. They got all these little mutant pieces they can put together their own little monster and put on there, and
You can pretend
so
to have a
that's
little fight.
yeah.
Yeah.
So all the volumes come with those. The middle volume there, the thin one, it comes with the insert for the back cover and new stickers. So now you can have a decorated front cover and a new back cover, and then the third volume has its own slide-in cover with different stickers.
The stories you can tell just on the outside. That's awesome.
So I just want to give people a sense of what these are like. If you hopefully you already have one or all of them, but they're monster books, and you know what a monster manual type thing looks like in the most basic way. Everyone, I know you do, I do, and so do you. So they kind of have that feel to them, but they've also got some cool fields in the stat blocks that are not typically in DCC monster listings. And sort of similar to like old AD&D, but a little different. I mean, they're kind of unique, and I think it's kind of interesting and fun. So let's see, there are 3 fields on there. One is organization, one is disposition, and there's a treasure one as well. Is there more?
And so the lead into the whole thing is like all these tables, right? Of like, where's the creature and what's its treasure, like what treasure rolls and all sorts of stuff. It's a lot of useful tables at the very beginning of the thing.
Right, but because the exposition is actually kind of lower in the entry than some of the earlier stuff. But even at the beginning, there's organization, disposition, so there's a little more fluff just even in the entry, which I thought was kind of interesting. And that's not in a lot of ways they look kind of like a Dungeon Denizens thing, which is good. That's a quality product. But those 3 things were a little different. So do you want to talk about those, Lou?
Yeah,
why did you go that way?
So prior to this, I put out 2 adventures for MCC as a third party, Seekers of the Unknown and the Time Lost Citadel. And I had a reviewer comment on one of the monsters I think it was in Seekers, where he said, I don't know, you haven't told me how big this thing is. You described it, but never gave me a size. And I got to thinking about that, and I realized that that's true of a lot of the monsters in MCC, that there's good descriptions of them, and sometimes there's illustrations that help you realize what you're dealing with, but sometimes that's kind of just left up to you to decide, which is fine. But I thought that could be one thing I could tell people, is give them a rough idea. I didn't want to get into, this is this many feet tall, and but because what you get into with that is you get this like power spiral thing going. If you go back through like the D&D monster manuals, like your hill giant keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger until he's like the size of the storm giant by the time you get to 5th edition or whatever. So I didn't want that.
There's rules associated with that whole thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I wanted to just keep it simple. Like, this is a medium-sized creature, and there's a page at the front that kind of tells you what that means, like kind of what scope we're talking about. This is a tiny creature. This is just giving it categories. In the book, the deluxe version comes with illustrated dividers to kind of help organize things. And one of the first dividers is a little panel with a bunch of monsters on it in a scene, and each of them's kind of given like a little letter, and it tells you, this is a monster that would be in the massive size, and this is one that's in the large size, and that sort of thing, just to give you a little visual. But again, keep it loose and easy to work with, where it's not giving you specific height requirements or anything. Same with disposition. It gives you an idea of like how this creature is going to interact with characters when they happen upon it. And then organization, also giving you an idea of, are these, is this a civilized creature? Is this, the primitive creature? What sort of behavior can you expect from it?
I love that, because just as a judge and a guy reading it, if I get really caught up in the entry and I'm thinking about a particular critter, that stuff begins to becomes a little adventurer already. Like, well, this thing is looking for the clams that it likes to eat, and it's grouped into tribes. Now the tribes are fighting over the clams, And it's, I mean, there's just like four little data points like that can start,
Yeah.
coming together into basically, and then you've got hooks in there for the creatures as well.
Well, so each one's a little different. I'm a big believer in bang for your buck. So, in almost to my own detriment, I typically overfill a page, and that's something I'm trying to work on to get to where it's a little more balanced, a little more white space in my writing. But you would write up some creatures, and there's only so much you can say about a giant ant, and then you end up with a little half a page that's like, well, what am I going to do with that? So I tried to on every creature finish filling out the page. Some of them have adventure hooks, like you said. Some of them have Marthor Stewart's survival advice, where she tells you about things you can do with the creature, its carcass and stuff to make it for better living in the post-apocalyptic world. There's some like mini adventures that have like a little map and a little key. Sometimes, like for instance, like creatures like bandits, there's a little list of what their scheme might be or what weapons they might be carrying, just stuff to fill it out and give you something useful at the table.
And the exposition paragraph as well to like give you a couple options of how to give it some flavor. I like that as well.
Yeah, and you were mentioning Judge Julian that the exposition kind of comes later on, and that was a design choice, and I'm not sure if it was the right one or not, but I had it originally at the beginning, like you would have the stats and then the exposition about what this creature's about. But then I got to thinking, like, you're gonna read that at leisure, but when you're using this monster, what you really need are the special powers. So putting them first and then putting that later became the design choice I went with, just to make it a little more easy to use at the table.
Yeah, and it is an interesting choice, but I think that makes sense for sure, because the first time you read, you're leafing through there and you're like, hey, I like this monster, and I see the picture and I like read the exposition. Oh, this guy will fit in my little dungeon like this. And then so the exposition is great the first or second time you read it, but then every other time you're coming back to get the stats on this guy, right? Like
Sure.
So I think it makes a certain amount of sense for the third, fourth, fifth time that you're coming back there. Going back to what you're saying about they're all different. Like some of them have hooks, but some of them have other different random tables. And one that jumped out was the Abomination, kind of has some beholder type stuff going on. But there's like 20 potential special eye stalks detailed. There's names. There's all this different stuff that you could just mix and match. You could pick. You could randomly roll stuff, and so it's very rich, is what I'm trying to say. Which in a good way, that it lets you really, I could use one of those in adventure, and James could use one of those in a whole different adventure he was running across the con room, and they might be somewhat different monsters just because they'd be so even off the same page, they'd be so configurable.
Well, in a world of mutations, that's what you want, right? You don't want to ever feel like, oh, this is the same mutant we just fought a little while ago.
Yeah, spoken like a true biologist. All right. All right, now we are going to pick a favorite monster. Judge James, I think you're up first.
Well, what about Judge Jen? Oh, she's not here.
Judge Jen, what is your...
She didn't even mail it in.
I think the warehouse is her ultimate monster.
Yeah, the warehouse is it should be a monster, actually. So
agreed. Okay. Predictably, I am going to choose two monsters. They're very similar. One is the Screen Slaver, and the other one is Corruption Bits. And I thought that was some really interesting. You haven't even talked about this particular design choice in your monsters. So why don't you tell us how those monsters work?
Sure. Okay. So the Screen Slaver, so the idea is, in this post-apocalyptic world, there's still some active electronics, and you might have like a little computer kiosk or something hanging out at a mall somewhere, and it's basically flashing subliminal imagery. And if a PC comes and takes a look at it, it might indoctrinate them, get them to want to go off and find a certain pair of sneakers to go buy or whatever. The Corrupt Bits, the idea there is that you can have programs that can, kind of have malware to them, be, self-destructive. And in a game where you might have, a cybernetic arm or an intelligent weapon, that could go real bad.
It's like a virus. The
Yeah.
corruption bits are kind of the same as like a virus
Yeah.
infecting your technology, right? Not necessarily the characters, but their equipment, right?
Yeah.
And there's a table, a matrix table.
Yeah, so and that's the thing. Like, how do you gamify that? How do you make that an interesting thing,
Yeah.
for a player? I mean, in some cases, a game would say, well, make a will save. Up, you pass your save, good for you. Oh, you failed it. Ah, you're screwed. But I wanted to do something more interesting than that, and my inspiration kind of came from spell duels.
Yeah.
This idea of, well, what if you had the monster rolling, on this axis of the chart, and the characters rolling, whatever applicable skills or mutations they have on this axis, and then you come to these different conclusions that can maybe end the fight, or maybe start spinning it one way or the other. So yeah, on that one, on corrupt bits, there's like, I don't know, syntax error and different outcomes that can, again, like boost the die that you're rolling as you're trying to fight this thing, or boost its die as it's trying to take over your equipment.
Yeah. So the character and the virus are like a contest of strength, basically, or a contest that's like being played out. Like, I got this result and I got this other result, the Spellburn chart, basically, right?
Yeah.
And so you land on a square and you read out what's happening. You might have to roll again, or you might contain the virus, or the virus might completely take control of your technology. Boo-hoo for you. And then the slaver was a little different in that it was like interacting with the user, the actual, player character, and like a mind control device, right? Like,
Yeah.
it would kind of mess them up and make them a slave to this piece of technology. And the same mechanics, though, of the character on a matrix and the device on this other matrix, and your contest of strength, or whatever, contest of skills, to see what happens.
Yeah, I kind of, I don't know that I default to it, but I like that setup quite a bit because I find it more engaging. And so even like, I think there's the land shark has a similar thing where as you're trying to outrun it, you're rolling on the chart to see if it's getting closer to you or you're getting further away. So just I find at the table that works to build suspense a lot more than just a solid roll and we're done.
Yeah. And how does that play at the I mean, you're basically putting one person usually, right? Kind of as in this spot where it's going to take, I don't know, 5-10 minutes to kind of resolve this thing. And
that's normally the cool thing is all of a sudden, the other players might realize there's something going down, and then they try to like do things that can help, help that player out, whether it's, in the case of corrupt bits, maybe you have a shaman with wetware that can then kind of reach in and try to, interact with that struggle of programming. Maybe it's a sentinel that's like running around pouring water on all the circuitry of the device. I don't know, but
right.
But you as a game master, the way the rules are written in these little write-ups, you can start bumping dies up, and that helps simulate these other actions people are taking to try to have an effect on the moment.
Of course. So I really enjoyed both those monsters. I was like, I would use this in a heartbeat in Netcrawl. Maybe even like steal the mechanic.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, anything. I put this on my company's Facebook page, but basically everything that's in Unnatural Selections that's mine. Now Joseph Goodman, oh man, the dude is a sweetheart. He let me put stuff from both DCC and MCC, like canon creatures in these books. And this was like maybe 6 months before they announced the release of Dungeon Denizens. So I had no clue that, here I'm kind of stealing their thunder a little bit, doing a monster book just before they do the official one. He didn't say a word, man. He's just like, yeah, no, go for it. You can use those. So where I was going with this, all the stuff that's mine, the stuff that's not credited to him in the book. I've said this as much. People are free to use those in their own modules, publishing and all that. Just, the artwork, obviously, I don't want them using that, and don't use my words, but use the creatures and use what you like out there, folks.
Loved it. I really like the series. It's an amazing amount of stuff, and then there's some really you go in lots of different directions, and that's why I kind of brought these like technology ones out of the pile.
No,
what about you?
Absolutely. You could go nuts just with one of these books, just organizing adventures around these monsters, all the hooks, options, and there'll be monsters in here that you could write 1 or 2 adventures just about the factions in their sub monster entries and all that jazz. It's really fun.
Thank
Okay, so my favorite was The Sound That Kills. And there's so many cool things in here that I was struggling to and I was a little overwhelmed. But when I saw that entry in the table of contents, it's in volume 3. I was like, okay, that's the one I'm gonna like, and immediately was correct. I really like to be right, if at all possible. But anyway, it's quite good. It's really unusual. It's actually a sound, and as I was saying earlier, when I was reading the entry, I was thinking, it talks about if you're in a place where noise is echoed, the sound gains +1 die every round to both mutation checks and damage dice. So in other words, of course, it's more powerful where there's echoes. It talks about if there's any kind of noise reduction, as the creature moves around in places where noise would reduce, or through things that noise was reduced, it actually loses hit points. And its energy, and then it talks about wavelengths and stuff. I'm like, this guy's a science teacher. Anyway, but so some of you who actually understand science, unlike me, may not be horrified when you read this. It's still whimsical and it has fun ideas and is science fictiony, but still it's fun. I also it's literally a sound that will kill you. It has sonic attacks. I'm not going to go into huge detail, but it also has, what I like about it is it's very different. It's not an orc. It doesn't have an axe. It's not a giant. It's not a dog template thing. And those are all great things. I mean, we love the things, but it would be a horror adventure, that you could organize around this thing, or even a horror movie that you could organize around this thing. And then there's something very Lovecraftian about it, I think,
like a color from space sort of thing,
right? Like the sound from space, or the song from Dimension X or whatever. And you kind of in your Hooks, the Lost Transmission, you talk about like there's some kind of weird cross-dimensional creatures, yada yada yada. That so there's all kinds of things that are sort of alluded at that you could do there. But anyway, there's tons of stuff, but that one really stood out as something kind of different that you will not find in most monster books. Pretty unique and pretty cool.
I got to ask you, because with permission, I stole one of yours that you did for Goodman. I stole the Hawkadile.
Oh yeah.
Did you by chance read that, and did I do okay?
No, it's so funny because I saw it and I put it in the intro to this episode, and I was thinking to myself, boy, that sounds familiar. And I was like, there must be a Hawkadile out there. Is that the thing in the
Christmas one that you did?
In the Christmas one, right? When you come out the tube and it ejects you into the air, you can actually get snared by the Hawkadile. Yeah. Yeah, well, good for me. I'm, I like to hear that. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I did see it and I kind of browsed over it, but I got to go back and, but the sound that kills is way cooler than the Hawkadile. Let's be honest. Okay.
Just the name Hawkadile. I love that.
It is a cool name, I gotta say. Okay. Lou, you're up. You got to choose amongst your babies here. I know this is not going to be easy because you got a lot of these guys, but you're going to have to bring it down to one.
If I had to bring it down to one, so this folks, this will go a little bit blue. This is going to be like a junior high toilet humor kind of stuff here, folks. If you want to tune out for about 2 minutes, go for that. So my favorite one is the Sphincter. Sphincter is so imagine like a beholder-like creature, but instead of eyes, it's just orifices, and each orifice can produce some sort of gas, like it's acidic gas, sleep gas, all sorts of stuff.
It's a Cronenberg film.
Yes. So the thing just rolls around, doing this, it's just, I don't know. It's a fun one. It's one that always gets a chuckle when people are flipping through at cons looking at the book. So.
Now, would you roll that out at a con game?
Oh yeah.
I think you might have to have some warning about junior high school
Yes.
humor or something. And
An
then-
X card.
Yeah, get the X card front and center. Okay, folks, I just want to
Yes.
point out the X card's right here.
we have a scratch and sniff X card for this game in case, because it might be a little too. Oof.
What odors are triggering for you?
I don't think people would come. I mean, I don't know. I think everybody would find that. Kids would love it, right? So that would be the main thing.
Yes.
Yeah, the fun part was giving the artist the commission on that one. You know what I really want you to draw, you know, and trying to describe, you know. But he was
Wow.
cool about it. He's like, "Oh yeah, I got you, man." And I don't know if you've seen that page or not, but it's truly grotesque.
Which I love is, did you have the same guy, Bura? Is that his name?
So yeah, Ibora. Yeah. So well, that's another thing. In the early Monsters Compendium, Jim Holloway did all the art for the interiors, and all
Right.
had a very similar look, whether you like it or not. At least it was, you know, felt cohesive. And I wanted to do that with this. So yeah, Santi Ibora's a guy I've worked with a lot for art, and so he did all the interior monster illustrations and the covers and clean stickers. And a good buddy of mine who's an artist, Christopher Tupa, he did all the divider pages that are in there. So, and I've stuck with that for all the volumes, and we're doing volume 4 in the fall here, and so far everyone's committed to it, so should be good to go.
There's something about Bora's art that's like, it's not just like pencil line art. It's all black and white for the monster entries, I think.
Yeah.
But it has this kind of finish to it. It's just a different like texture than you'll see in a lot in the kind of typical black and white line art.
Yeah, he does. So he turns these in first as rough sketches, which are amazing. Like when I was first working with him, I thought that was the finished product, and I was happy with it. He's like, "Oh no, that's the sketch. Is it okay? Can I go forward?" And I actually reused the sketches. If you go back to the pages that have the random encounter charts and stuff on them, I put some of the sketches in with his permission as kind of background filler. But yeah, then he details it out, and he does it's all digital and on the computer, but he does a like a shader and stuff, and has some really cool textures to his art. You know,
This multi-tonal, gray washing and all sorts of stuff like that.
Exactly. Yeah, it's cool. It's not there's definitely like it reminds me of Fabian, the guy who just died, who did all the Ravenloft stuff, but his that second edition Ravenloft stuff had that kind of wash or whatever shading or tone to it. Very cool. And it gives your stuff a kind of unique look, I think, too. It's kind of
thanks.
It's his signature, and now it's your signature, because it's amazing. He's cranking out a lot of these drawings. So.
Yeah, well, and I tell you, it's good to have collaboration like that, and this is very collaborative, because I'll have an idea, and I'm like, I've got my little notebook of ideas of monsters, and a lot of times I'll be like, this is a monster that I need to do because it's fills a niche within the post-apocalyptic world, but I'm not really excited about it. And so I'll give him the commission, and I get it back from him, and there's just something he does something with the art that just makes me then wild about it. Like, yeah, now this monster is awesome. I'm all about this guy now. What's Land Urchin's one of them that's like that. It's got you got this little pin cushion rolling around, shooting quills at things. It's okay. But then when I got the art back from it, I'm not going to be able to find it quickly. So, but anyhow, I get the art back from it. He's done this cool thing where it's a desert landscape, and you got this gas mask covered guy laying disposed on the ground with these pins sticking out of him, and the urchins in the background. And it's just like, it just caught me on fire. Right. So it's really good to have people like that collaborating on a project like this.
Yeah, well, he's terrific. You should definitely use him for as long as you can. No question.
Milk and dry.
All right, well, guys, Luau Lou, it has been awesome to have you. Thanks very much for coming on the show. It was great to meet you at North Texas. But as it happens, we spent a bunch more time online tonight, so it's been great to have you with us. And Judge Jen, sorry you couldn't make it. We miss you. right now it's time to thank Glitter Wizard, Loot the Body, St. Karloff for their permission to use their music. As always, thanks to our patron AI Judge Jim for hosting and maintaining our site. Thanks to Bob for all the help with editing and bumpers and about 100 other little things. Of course, we want you to email us at spellburnband@gmail.com. Send us your emails, help out other letter writers. And if you find any issues with getting the podcast and that kind of stuff, I can usually fix those pretty quick. So let us know. Once again, at spellburnband@gmail.com. And of course, we'll be going to spellburn.com with this show quickly, and you can hear all our former episodes there as you wish. So, crowdsourcing you want to plug, Spellburn topic you'd like to hear, guest you'd like to have us on, let us know, spellburnband@gmail.com. All right. Guys, anything else before we sign off here?
Yeah, I just gotta say, D24 clan for life. Luau Lu, a fellow
Yes.
clan member.
Fighters of the Shadow or the Shadow Shogun.
That's right.
Very nice. All right. Well, last thing we're going to say is thank you to Elena, our YouTube goddess, for her
Yes.
patience and making us look and sound the best on at Goodman Games YouTube. That's it. Everybody game on.
Care, folks.